the One South Africa movement is to unveil its education rescue plan. It includes 10 interventions that the movement says will rescue the country's education system. So does this include leader Maimane controversial call for the matric pass mark to be raised to 50%? Well, our reporter, Ronald Masinda, is covering that story and joins us now with an update and is on standby for a conversation with the leader of One South Africa, Maimane. So, Ronald, just the call and the campaign and the plan that One South Africa has unveiled. What are the details thereof? What are you hearing from its leader, Maimane?
Well, Chulas, good morning. Well, we heard from Mr. Maimane earlier on calling for that 30% pass mark to be scraped. He says that this is detrimental to the future of young South Africans, especially when they have to play a bigger role in the economic development of South Africa. He joins me now to unpack what has been said earlier. Mr. Maimane, thank you very much indeed. 10 points. Tell us a bit about them.
Yeah, I think the points really focus on how we can improve our education system. And as you've already indicated, the first one is that we need to drop the 30%. No child must pass at 30%. Secondly, we are of the complete view that we must introduce an independent education ombudsman for monitoring and evaluation so that we can improve standards all across. We need to raise salaries for performing teachers who are doing well. We are of the complete view that we must replace life orientation with critical skills thinking as a subject so that we can prepare kids for the future. We must incentivize students that perform well so that we avoid this drop-off all the way through. Also on point 6 is that we need to prioritize primary school education, because if we do not overly invest into that, we are not going to be able to correct it at other sectors. We need to ultimately ensure that we put security and tighter security in schools so that no violence can take place in schools. These must be places that are safe. And the last two things, I really think that if we put a program for underperforming learners to make sure that they can be able to work through the system, and then ensure that we introduce a capital budget to build digital learning center to enhance that, so that we can be at the forefront of e-learning centers, at the forefront of blended learning, so that our young people are prepared for the fourth industrial revolution.
Particularly interested in the issue of the ombudsman. What role do you think the ombudsman should play at schools?
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the things that to show the outweighed power of unions is that they rejected continuous assessments of teachers. Now, it becomes a blind stat when you get to the announcement of matric results, that by the time you get there, only then do we know what has been happening to your child's education. Whereas what we're saying is that an independent education inspectorate can, throughout the schooling system, be able to assess the performance of teachers, the outcomes that learners are achieving, and make sure that this is aligned to the economic output of a nation.
The Department of Basic Education in a recent press release said that people shouldn't be misleading others with regards to this issue of the 30% pass mark, alluding to what we are waiting to see or hear from the Basic Education Minister regarding the pass rate. What are your views on this, and do you think that the Basic Education Minister is still the right person for this job?
The startling point to make here is that if the apartheid government was doing to our young people what this government is doing to them today, asking them to pass at 30%, we'd all be angry. No child should pass at 30%. My kids are in the education system. I don't expect that of them. I don't expect that of any child. Now, the Minister of Education doesn't have a vision for education, and therefore I don't believe she's fit for the job. Because actually, when you look at it in real numbers, in a subject like mathematics, when we say how many young people passed mathematics at 30%, that number is higher, it's at 50%. But when you look at how many young people passed mathematics at 50%, it's only 23% of our young people in this country as per 2020 reading. Now, in what country can you say that you are going to be competitive when only 23% of your learners are passing mathematics at 50%? So to me, it's got to do with how we view our young people, what we ask of them, and if we improve the pass mark, we will see that actually we will raise them progressively and ask better of our education system.
Just very lastly, before you leave, just on the issue of student placements, so we've seen across certainly Gauteng and now the Western Cape, a lot of parents are struggling to find schools for their children. What seems to be the issue? How can this be resolved?
Yeah. I mean, crucially, we must make it easier for young people to be able to apply for school. I think some of the technological difficulties we've seen have made that young people are misplaced. Secondly, I think there's a failure in being able to build schooling infrastructure so that kids don't have to travel far to compete for the few schools that are performing well in the top 20%. Thirdly, I think I want to put out an invitation to private sector, to businesses, that say investment into our education is a collective shared responsibility for our economy. We need to invest in schools so that we partner with education so that schooling and quality schooling is accessible closer to kids. We have to increase the numbers, increase the quality, but make sure that closer to where kids are, they are guaranteed a school that works, that doesn't have pet latrines, and that ultimately can produce skills for the future.
All right, Mr. Maimane, thank you very much indeed. That was One South Africa movement leader, Mr. Maimane. As we await with bated breath to hear how the class of 2021 performed.
All right, thank you for that. That is eNCA's Ronald Masinda speaking there to One South Africa leader, Maimane.